Welcome back to tutorial number 3, the final tutorial in the series of how to build a project plan. If you are joining at this level here, this may not make a whole lot of sense to you. I'd recommend going back to tutorial number 1, and getting to this point will be fairly simple, you'll see. Really quickly, what we didn't talk about in the last sequence was when I created the lag between this task and this task, the gap between when this finishes and when this begins, you'll notice that some notations appeared here in predecessors and successors. I didn't write these in here. All I did was I clicked on the task that was the follow-on task, the secondary task. I changed the relationship from finish to start, and I changed lag from 0 to 5. Let's say if I change it to 7 days. You'll see the notation says 4fs plus 7. The successor to this task, the one that follows it, is number 4, processor. The relationship is a finish to start and a lag of plus 7 days. You can obviously do a lag of negative 7 days if you wanted to, but we're not going to do that today. Alright, now that we've done the dependencies, we're going to go ahead and do the durations. And it's important that in the order that we're making this building this project is the order that you're going to want to follow. Build the tasks, the summary tasks, the subtasks beneath them. Create the dependencies next, and then build your durations. So we're just going to add some durations here. As I mentioned before, when you create a task in Microsoft Project, it automatically defaults to 1 day question mark, which when you take a look at it, it says duration 1 day, check mark is estimate. If you are certain it's 1 day, you can do that to get rid of the check mark. Okay. Or what you can do is simply this. I'll say that the motherboard is going to take a week. I'll type in 5 days. We'll say 2 weeks for the processor, another week for flash memory, and I will just add random durations to these tasks. I'll go ahead and do that, and we'll be right back in a moment. Okay, I've gone ahead and just created some random durations for each of these. I simply just typed 5 and it changed it to 5 days. You could change it to minutes, weeks. Days are usually the unit of measure that you're going to want to use. I'd highly recommend this specifically if you're going to be using the Project Assistant. You can also put in fractions of a day, 0.5 days, a half a day. It will do that as well. Okay, so we've got our durations. Now when you take a look at this project plan here at the Gantt chart, that's what this is called over here, it's called a Gantt chart. You can see these bubbles elongated. Now this motherboard task is a 5-day duration, starts on the 10th of July and ends on the 16th of July. Then there's this lag, the subsequent task starts, and it goes on till the end of the project. And as we move across the plan here, you see as we go down, they have varying durations and they follow each other. Okay. So now you have a sense of what your project is going to look like from a schedule standpoint, how long it's going to take. If you look at the first line item here, Smart Music Armband, it shows your start date, it'll show your finish date. This is how it all rolls up. Each of the summary level tasks show you how many days are involved for that piece, that component, when it starts and when it ends. So you can roll them up and look at the dates that way. So now the last thing we need to do is we need to assign people to these tasks. Typically you would have received the level of effort or the number of days associated with the task from the resource owner. So we'll just go ahead and add people now. In order to have a list to add from, as you see there's nobody here, we're going to go over to Gantt chart. We're going to click on this drop down and we're going to pick resource sheet. In the resource sheet we're going to add some generic names. We'll say Bill, Joe, Susan, Jill, John. Okay, so this is our team. You notice that Microsoft Project filled in all these other components here. All I added were these names. I don't typically change these. I don't need to use them for the most part. If you want to change them, you can certainly do that. We're not going to use that or look at that in this particular tutorial. Okay, we're going to go back to the Gantt chart, and when we go back to the resource names, that's where you add the names of the owners. You click on the box for motherboard, you see the drop down list, and suddenly the names I added are all there. So we'll assign built to this task. Enter. Processor will assign this one to Corey. Enter. And then we're going to assign the flash memory to Susan. Enter. Okay. I'm going to go down this list and just continuously add names to each of the tasks. What's important here is to remember is this. We don't want to add resources or tasks to owners to the summary level tasks. You don't need to have an owner at the summary level task. It doesn't make sense to do that. And we also don't add dependencies, predecessors and successors at the summary level. That tends to muddy up project plans. You don't want to do that. You want to make your dependencies between the individual tasks, not the summary level items like these ones here. Okay? I'll be right back in a moment. Okay, so I went ahead and added resource names to the rest of the tasks here. So now every task has somebody assigned to it. When you take a look at your Gantt chart, if you choose to, you'll see that their name appears next to the task. It's very helpful to have that. A couple of things I would recommend that you do also is at the end of your project, you're going to want to be able to track project complete. I typically like to insert a task, and I'll call this project go live. Okay, and I will probably bold this one. Sometimes I may even change it to a different color because that's the one that everyone cares about. When are you going to be done? When are you going to go live? So I may increase the font size a little bit, make this one stand out a bit so we notice it. And obviously this would be the last task. The duration for a milestone is usually 0. If you change a task duration to 0, it automatically becomes a milestone. In fact, that's one column we probably should add here, and that is insert column milestone. There we go. And you'll see this says yes. This is a toggle. So if we want to create a couple of other milestones, let's say data encryption is a milestone, say software is a milestone, and we're just picking random items here to make them milestones. You can go ahead and do that. There's a reason why you want to do that. You'll see once we get to the use of the project assistant. Most times when you're reporting to an executive, they want to know how you're progressing at a milestone level. They don't want to know all the details. Okay, so we're going to create a link between the last two tasks so that the project go live is the last one. And this is where we will be able to determine when the project is going to be completed based on how we progress. As you add people's percent complete, you close them, or you change the durations if they take longer or shorter, this date will change. You want that to happen. That's how you are able to determine whether your project is dragging out too far, and if it is, you have plenty of time, if you build your plan properly, to recover. If you are late here and this becomes a 7-day task instead of 5 days, okay, it moved you up by 2 days, but it moved you up by 2 days in August. You don't go live until May. You can probably find a way to recover the 2 days here if you know that you've lost those 2 days. So it's important to have that. Okay. Alright, we are now going to save this project. Okay. You've already got your project information. We didn't do this at the outset, but project information, of course, this is where you can set the start date. We'll make today the start date. If I want to, I can change the start date to tomorrow. And it will shuffle these all out by a day. Okay? Alright, we're going to go back and make the start date. We're going to make it last week. Okay? Alright, so we've saved our project plan. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add or create a snapshot of our project plan and hand it to the project assistant to create our reports. I would recommend that you see snapshot tutorial number 3 in the quick start setup presentation for the Exorion project assistant. So for those of you who have done tutorial number 3, you'll recognize what I'm about to do here. For those of you who haven't, I highly recommend that you do follow along and do that tutorial. Okay, go ahead and save this. Alright, we have just saved a snapshot of this project plan which we're going to now hand over to our project assistant. I'm going to pull up this, here it is. This is what it looks like when you take a snapshot of your project. 99% of the details in here we didn't type in. We just added some dependencies, some task names, some durations, and some resources, and the rest of this was all calculated by Microsoft Project. Very powerful stuff. We're going to click on the cornerstone, click on copy. Well, I guess we can right click and copy here then. Now we're going to go over to our project assistant. For those of you who obviously have one of these, we're going to go to the detailed project plan. I already have one in here. I'm going to swap it out and put a new one in here. And we're going to click on the cornerstone, and I'm going to click on paste. Now I've handed a copy of my project plan over to my project assistant. There's a cleanup task that we're going to want to do here. Refine my project plan is the first thing you're going to want to do. Click on that. Then we're going to go ahead and create the project plan. Now it's not so much creating it as it is reformatting it in a way that's meaningful and is legible, more legible than what you had before. In the event that somebody wants to have a copy of your project plan, the details, you click on that button, you can hand this to them. Most people don't have Microsoft Project on their desktop, so creating the plan in Excel can be laborious. By the click of a button, you can go ahead and do that right now. We're going to go over to the agenda now. We're going to plan our first tracking meeting to look at the status of the project. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an agenda. Now you'll see as it's the program is building this agenda, it's looking at the purpose of this particular agenda is the project tracking meeting to find out how the project's progressing, whether tasks are being completed on time, and if they're not being completed on time, we take note of that and we go back and update the project plan accordingly. The purpose of this agenda here, the way it's designed, is first of all, the invitees will tell you who needs to be in the meeting to make the meeting a success. Right now, the only task that's due at this point is the motherboard, and Bill owns that. That's why his name is up here. These are all the names that are CC'd, and we can get into how that's done in the other Xorian tutorials. But now you see how you have handed your project plan over to your project assistant, and how your project assistant created an agenda for you. We're going to create a milestone chart, and that'll be the end of this tutorial. We're going to go create milestone report. These are the milestones that we had saved. We're going to go ahead and sort these oldest to newest. Get rid of these because it hasn't closed yet. And there you go. If your executive wants to see how you're progressing from a milestone point of view, start date, target close date, if it's actually completed, the date that was completed will show here, and this line item would gray out when it's completed, something like that. So you can see as the gray bars progress closer to the bottom, executives can see how you're progressing at a milestone level with your project. That is the end of this tutorial. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please click on like, and good luck.